Hey there, and welcome to the Excel Essentials Functions course here at Data Frenchie Academy. If you want to follow this along in more of a course format, you can find the link down in the description where it's totally free. You can take assessments and get a certificate at the end for completing this course. For this first video, we'll be looking at basic math functions, and the first one up is sum, which adds up a range of numbers. Then we have min, which finds the smallest value in a range. Max finds the largest value in a range. Average calculates the mean of a range. Count counts numeric cells in a range. And finally, COUNTA, which counts non-empty cells in a range. Okay, so here we have our data set we'll be working with, and this one's looking at some deal size opportunities we have in our company's pipeline. And over here to the right, we have some questions to be answering. So let's dive right into the first one, which is going to ask us, what is our total pipeline? And to answer this, we're going to look at our data and think, okay, so what column could really tell us this information? And that's me looking at column E, which is the deal size. So to answer this, I'm going to use the sum function. So equals sum. And for this, I'm going to select my range. And for this, I'm going to just start at E2. And I'm going to drag it all the way down to E27. Now, there are also a couple ways we could do this too, instead of doing it that way. We also could always just type it out. So E2 to E27. We get our range that way. Or we can do it with the entire column. Now, the thing to be careful with the entire column is we don't know what could be underneath it. Most of the time, you'll know what's in the data set before you're doing any sort of analysis, but it's always safest to select the range you actually want to sum. So in this way, I'm going to go back and make sure it's the range that I want. E27, close up, click enter, and there we go. We get our total pipeline, which is around $1.45 million. Next up, we want to answer the average deal size. So we have our data set, but what is the average deal size among all of the opportunities? So clicking into this cell here, I'm going to use the average function. So average. And for this one, same thing. I want to select the range that I want to find the average of, which in this way is the deal size. So doing the entire column here, close it up. And we get our average deal size, which is $55,775. The next question is, what is the largest deal size? And once again, looking at this, we have our data, but what if we want to know what's driving that average? So for this, we click right into the largest deal size, and we're going to use the max function for this one, equals max. And same thing, I think, what is the data range we're looking at? It's the deal size column. So once again, going to E2, dragging down, close it up. And there we go. The largest deal size in our data set is $94,000. Kind of staying on topic. So we're like, okay, so 94,000 is the largest deal size. That's cool. But what's the smallest? We're trying to understand what's driving the average deal size number within our data set. Going over here to the smallest deal size, just like before we use max for the largest, we're going to use min for the smallest. So we're going to do equals min. Same thing, looking at the deal size data. Let's take up that range, close it up. And there you go. Small deal size is just a little bit under $4,000. Okay, so the next question to look at here is how many deals are in our pipeline? And that's going to be very important because it's great to know all this information, but how many deals are actually making this up? So to answer this one, we're using the COUNTA function. It's count with an A at the end. And what this function does is it counts the number of cells in a range that are not empty. So of course, if there's any empty cells, then nothing will appear. So looking at this one, okay, so before we're working with the deal size, for this one, I want to look at column A, the deal ID. Because each one is a unique ID, I think this is by far the best column to use. Now, to do this, I'm going to show an example. I'm going to click the entire column. I'm going to close this up, and it says 27. So I could tell the manager, like, okay, we have 27 deals in our pipeline. However, looking at this range once again, it's counting every single cell in this range that's not empty. And A1 is the column header. We do not want to include that because that is incorrect information. So I'm going to adjust the range here to A2 to A27 because that is the actual data range we are working with. Click enter. And we get 26, which is the correct answer for this question. The last question here is how many deals in our pipeline have a probability percentage associated with it? And of course, that's very important because if we have a deal size and we don't know the probability, it's really hard to project what we actually could get out of our pipeline. So for this one, we're using the count function. And the thing that's different between count and COUNTA is count has to rely on numeric values, where COUNTA is more reliant on text values. As you see here for count, this will work because we're looking at the probability column. Where if I use count for, let's say, column A, it would come back with nothing because that is not a numeric value. So for this, I want to look at the range I'm focusing on, which in this case is from G2 down to G27. Went a little too far there. Let me close that up. And we get 26. So this is essentially telling me, based off the last two questions, that every single deal in our pipeline has a probability percentage with it. And we can take a glance at it really quickly that yes, each one actually does. So in this sense, these two answers are 100% correct. I really appreciate you guys being here for this video, and I really look forward to seeing you on the next one.